By a show of hands, how many of you have ever been interrupted during a conversation while trying to get your point across? My name is Eva Cruz, and I will be talking about that, the perception of dominance based on interruptions. Today, I will discuss the main idea, which is how interruptions play a role in increasing the perception of dominance in interpersonal communication. Today, I will discuss a research study which I found, its findings, and how it relates to an interpersonal relationship in my own life. The article which I found is called The Effect of Interruptions and Dyad Gender Combinations on Perceptions of Interpersonal Dominance by Youngquist. This research study talks about how interruptions and dyad gender combinations will have an effect on perceptions of interpersonal dominance. In this study, participants were asked to listen to a series of recorded dialogues with 6 intentionally embedded intrusive interruptions. After each pair of interruptions, participants completed a survey measuring their perceptions of interrupters' interpersonal dominance. This relates to the topic of dominance cues in Chapter 2, which discusses how dominance cues communicate status, position, importance, and control. Dominance occurs when a communicative act, such as an interruption, is initiated by one individual and accepted by the other. Another term which is important is in terms of the research study is dyad combination, which is 2 people having a conversation in different gender combinations, which can be a woman with a woman, man with a man, and a man with a woman. First off, there were 3 hypotheses which I found in this article. The first one is that the female interrupter in the cross-sex dyad will be perceived as more dominant than the male interrupter in the cross-sex dyad. This is a result of stereotypes that females who confidently and aggressively interrupt the male will be more likely to stand out than a male who confidently and aggressively interrupts a female. The second hypothesis is that a same-sex interrupter would be more likely to be perceived as dominant than a cross-sex interrupter. The third hypothesis is that a woman and man will not be perceived equally when exhibiting the same behavior. The researchers found, for hypothesis 1, that perceptions of dominance for a female interrupter in a cross-sex dyad were significantly higher than perceptions of dominance for a male interrupter in a cross-sex dyad. The researchers found for the second hypothesis that for this combination, a female interrupter in a same-sex dyad was perceived as more dominant than a male interrupter in a cross-sex dyad during all 3 surveys. The researchers found for the third hypothesis that the data partially confirmed this hypothesis. The female interrupter was perceived as more dominant in both first and second surveys, but not the third. How it applies to my own life is between the interpersonal relationship of my roommate and I. When my roommate and I discuss an issue involving our apartment, she tends to get it her way. I realize that she tends to interrupt during our conversation and how it negatively affects our relationship because I never get to get my voice heard. What I learned is that interruptions in conversations imply that interrupters want to assert their dominance. You should make it clear that you want to finish your sentence without any interruptions to get your point across. I learned that overall females are perceived as more dominant when interrupting during a conversation, which makes sense because the relationship between my roommate and I are a female with a female. In conclusion, I talked about a research study that I found, its findings, and how it relates to the relationship between my roommate and I. I want to remind everyone that one of the main rules of conversation is turn-taking. Listen and cooperate with one another. Thank you for listening. Bye.